let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. I'm super excited to have Johnny and Simon here on the show. Johnny is a career gang detective out of California, and we got Simon, who is also a career gangster, ex-con, whatever you want to call it. And I'm really glad that you guys were able to join me here today.
Thank you. Appreciate you allowing us to be with you.
Heck yeah, man. I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be good stuff. So let's start off with you, Johnny. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background, just real quick? How'd you get in law enforcement, that kind of stuff?
I started my career like in the late 80s. I come from a somewhat large sheriff's department from California. I worked the obligatory jails for about 4.5 years. I worked uniform patrol for about another 5 years. From there, I went on to our full-time SWAT team, was a SWAT operator for about 5 years. And then over to our special investigations division, which handles our gangs, narcotics, intelligence, criminal intel, and all of our task force officers that are assigned to federal agencies throughout the county as well. And within that world, I started out working in street gangs in the southern region of my jurisdiction. And I kind of floated around that division for the next 20 years. I never left because I enjoyed it so much. I found my home in that area. And so I bounced around from narcs. I went to gangs, back to narcs, and then I became a full-time task force officer with the FBI for 10 years in my career.
Right.
I worked a number of different wire teams over there. And then in the last 5 years of my career, I came back home, so to speak, to my intel unit. And within that unit, we have a full-time undercover team.
Okay.
And I was assigned to that full-time undercover team. So I ended my career working the last 5 years of my career working full-time undercover operations. That's a little bit about me.
Awesome. That's awesome. How about you, Simon? You want to tell us about your background?
Well, my background, Simon is a former gang member, born in the early 80s.
Okay.
I come from that era where they made the movies in the early 90s, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, Colors.
Right.
All them good old gangster movies, We can't forget about Goodfellas and all the good old Italian mob flicks. But that definitely had its influence, bro, on the gang culture, on all ethnic backgrounds all over, all over the country.
Yeah.
Not just a Southern Cali thing, Although a lot like to admit, a lot say that, LA, San Diego, those are the counties, the homeland of the gangbang.
Yeah.
For the most part, where it originated. At least when it comes to flossing colors and numbers,
Right.
But yeah, me, bro, I come from a gang family, man. Unfortunately, that's not what I always wanted to be in life, but I had no control over that.
Right.
I'm a product of my parents. My parents were gangbangers, bro. All their siblings were gangbangers. I happened to be born into the two biggest families in the neighborhood.
Right.
In the gang. So for me, that was my normalcy, bro.
Yeah.
Being around that type of environment, whether it was my grandparents on my mother's side, my dad's side, it didn't matter. The same old party was happening on both ends of the neighborhood,
Right.
These two families, they a lot of influence, bro, in that neighborhood, A lot of these Hispanic Chicano neighborhoods have, those families, the Ramirezes, the Lopezes,
Right.
the Gonzalezes, and what those families are known for,
Right.
For
sure.
Unfortunately, bro, I would love to say I come from a line of doctors and shit, or lawyers or something, something praiseworthy, But no, bro, for me it was gangs, man, and it was nothing special. Fatherless, and that played a big role. Pops wasn't there to tell me not to be a gangster.
Right.
If anything, he was more in a sick way, kind of encouraging me, bro.
Yeah.
He's old school. He's one of them. He had like that belief system of like wanting his own seed, his own son to be a gangster.
Right.
It's kind of weird, bro.
Yeah.
Kind of like, looking back, kind of a little evil. Looking back at it now, like, fuck, because I got kids, bro. I got my boys, and I would never want that lifestyle for them, But yeah, bro, I had Pops, he wasn't really around in my life, and that led me to being outside, hanging out with the fellas. And for me, again, it was more than the fellas. It was my own cousins. It was my family.
Right.
It's just me hanging out with family.
Yeah.
To law enforcement or to society, I'd be hanging out with gang members.
Yeah.
To me, I'm just outside with my cousins.
Right.
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 But yeah, bro. Unfortunately, with that decision and that type of lifestyle comes prison. The gangs came first. Soon after, I got jumped into the gang like in 1994, bro. Just went hard, and decided to be the best gang member I could, if you will.
Yeah.
Kind of like in a sick way, wanted to please my own family.
Yeah.
I seen that that's what they wanted, Me, if I had it my way, I would have been a cool little surfer, little skater.
Yeah.
To this day, I have a passion. I love the beach, bro. I love the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. But those two families, they weren't having no skater in the family.
Right.
Again, they were like those kind of families from the movies, bro, where you're going to gangbang and this is what we do and we don't fuck with police and we sell product and we do this and that type of shit.
Yeah.
And, bro, it dictated my life. I mean, really, it was for the most part hopeless. I mean, jumping the hall right away as an early teenager, and man, bro, that didn't stop. In and out of my every juvenile facility the county had to offer. I was a product of those type of environments, all the way to the YA system for a bit. Came back home and tried to slow things down a little bit. Got married, had a couple boys, and still, bro, the neighborhood was still it was priority. Again, it was family.
Yeah,
it was more than having to just hang out or having to do things for a motherfucker. It's like just moving and grooving as a family unit,
right?
And unfortunately, criminal shit's at the center of it. And couple years after YA, I got a prison term and ended up taking off to prison for a good 10 years, bro.
Right,
good 10 years of my life. And fast forward, here we are now, 10 years. I've been out 10 years now.
Right.
Since I went in, I paroled 2014. Went in like in 04, late 05, early 05.
Yeah.
And bro. And,
so now when we talk about gangbanging in Southern California in the 90s, are we talking like we've got colors, we've got like all that stuff? I mean, is it like if people are at home and they're thinking of what you think of when you think of a Southern California Hispanic gang member in the 90s, is that what we're talking about? We're talking about like the Dickies and the whole nine yards?
Well, it's a trip. Coming from a big family, me being an 80s baby, born in 82, I come from, obviously 82. So I was able to see my cousins who are older than me.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to see their style at the time.
Yeah.
When I was a boy playing with Legos,
right?
They had the hairnets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They had the hairnets, Polaroid pictures.
Right.
This was like the 70s era, early 80s. Gang members, believe it or not, dressed kind of classy.
Yeah.
With nice shiny shoes, kind of like with slacks.
Yeah.
Suspenders, nice white t-shirt.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nice plaid shirt, but creased with some type of hat.
Mm-hmm.
It was an era, and they got that from like the Pachuco movement. That came to be. Those was like the 50s.
Yeah.
It just started changing and transitioning. So yeah, the homies weren't always with Dickies. They at the beginning they were dressing nice, and they went to shit, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but I was able to see the whole transition of the nice look, with slacks and nice shirts, and then from there it went to what I would call the black and white look, or the dark blue and black.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the Dickies or Ben Davis,
mm-hmm.
Frisco County pants, with the Nike Cortez.
Yeah.
Blue, white, black ones.
Yeah.
With any type of black, dark colored shirt, creased up with the bandana. Early 90s, we began to shave our heads.
Okay.
I'd say like 92, 93. Everybody was shaving their heads, and that was the ideal cholo look. They had a uniform look. You can cruise through the neighborhood and you will definitely know those are the gang members of this community.
Right.
They all look the same. They might not necessarily be doing anything illegal at the moment, but they're up to no good.
Yeah. Now, would y'all have a certain color that y'all would wear, like red, blue, or was it something different than that?
Obviously the ones that play that blue and red thing is it's the Bloods and the Crips, obviously, and then you have the Chicanos with the North and the South thing.
Right.
Me being from the Southland, Southern Cali, there's no Northerners down
Right.
here, so we never felt the need to. Yeah,
there's no need to have a certain color.
Yeah.
They know that you're not a black dude, you're a Hispanic dude, so you're with this group.
Right.
Like, you didn't have to like explain yourself.
Right.
Yeah. I got you.
For the most part, and then me being from the South, I mean, it wasn't like a rule or anything in the gang, but we didn't wear red. Just because we knew we had enemies yet to even know.
Right.
Because you don't cross these lines until you're in YA or prison,
Mm-hmm.
with these Northerners, and, then you find out really what it is. But, it's a color thing. We know not to wear the color red, I guess,
Right.
in the South, but
Okay.
now these days, bro, it's so diverse. Nobody's really tripping on the color stuff.
Yeah.
It's a thing of the past.
So how does a gangbanger from Southern California and a career gang detective end up here on Texas Narcos?
I ask myself that same question all the time now that the dust has settled. So I'll put it to you in a very quick nutshell. I was working our criminal intel unit at the time.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I was responsible for investigating organized crime, which included prison gangs, which are organized crime. And this is how our worlds kind of collided, in that a case that I was investigating had a somewhat nexus to now my interview partner, who is sitting next to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that case was a significant case. I don't have the time to go through the details of that case, but
Right.
It was a significant case in which he was looking at a significant amount of prison time for.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to meet up in talk in conjunction with our district attorney's office and offer him the opportunity to work for my agency in order to, as we say in law enforcement, work his case off.
Right.
And he agreed to do so. And that was shortly after he was paroled,
Mm-hmm.
as he mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So this is in mid 2014, 2015, when he was pretty much fresh out of prison,
Mm-hmm.
and our two worlds collided. And he agreed to cooperate with us and work.
Right.
And he did exactly that. Once we were able to break the barriers down, we were able to break the walls down. And after a certain amount of time, there was trust built between us. I'm not going to burn him. He's not going to burn me. We are here to get work done. And this is the work that I want to get done with you. We agreed on that.
Yeah.
Almost like business partners, I guess, if you will. And the truth of the matter is that both of us put our noses down to the grindstone, and we just worked for the next 6-7 years, probably more than that.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of great work done. And as those years continued to progress, the wall continued to crumble as far as trust,
Mm-hmm.
where we were almost partners, and I'm sure we might get there, in working together to solve significant cases.
Right. Okay. Well, so you guys spent a lot of time in the streets together.
We did. We spent a significant amount of time working what we call in law enforcement street operations. And that could include gun purchases, but mainly drug type investigations, gun purchases, drugs, and dealing with other gangsters as well.
I got you. So, I'm going to ask you, Simon. So, when you first got on board with Johnny here, what was it like to go from being on one side of the law to being helping out the other side? Like was there like an internal conflict at first?
Big time, bro. Big time conflict. Yeah, most definitely. I can tell you the first time, which, and it's not even it's not even nothing great, but I guess you can say my first assignment when I began to to work with the team. They wanted me to make a phone call to a few of my homegirls. They just wanted to see how the neighborhood views me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always get that vibe of how the girls think of the homie,
Yeah.
Whether they think he's an idiot or he's a lame, they'll kind of brush him off.
Mm-hmm.
You'll feel the vibe of who this dude is, who he thinks he is, it says he is, And they did that. They were testing that, bro. And for me, it was, man, it was hard, bro. It was the biggest it was the first of the beginning of transitioning over.
Yeah.
It was very foreign to me just to be in a cop car.
Yeah.
Just to be in a cop car at my
not in the back.
Yeah, not in the back, bro, not cuffed.
Yeah.
And watching them hook up the phone and go ahead and mark this number and go ahead and talk to the homegirls. For me, bro, I felt like, man, it was bad, bro. I was deceiving my people,
right,
to say the least. I felt like shit that here I am, in my life, caught up in my own bullshit, and now the possibility of me bringing my bullshit, it's there that I can bring it to the homegirls now. Risking the chance that they can say something that they're not supposed to on the phone.
Yeah,
they don't know that I'm on the phone and the phone's wired and there's two officers listening to them.
Right.
Them being homegirls, they can always slip up and say something gangster, bro.
Yeah.
It's just all bad. So it was the beginning of change, bro. Yeah, that was the beginning of me becoming a different Simon.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's so as your partnership continued, I mean, are you guys doing like kilo deals? Are y'all doing like some big time work, or is this, are we talking like street level gangsters, or what are we talking about here?
Well, just like any other working relationship and dealing with a cooperator, I prefer, if we have the time, to start off slow.
Right.
So that really, if you are a handler of a high level worker, cooperator, like Simon is, you want to take your time with that person because you know the potential that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the time, so you don't have to throw him or her right into the fire, part of a handler's job is to groom and mentor. If you want this person to be around for a long time, you want to groom and mentor them. So you want to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, from my perspective, at this time, I'm working in our intel unit, and that intel unit allows me the opportunity to slow down.
Yeah.
Because we are a self-initiated unit.
Yeah.
We're not getting cases on our desk.
Right.
So that is the perspective I took it with Simon, was let's take it slow. And I kind of went backwards in my career and started with, as he just said, let's start simple, recorded phone call, a controlled phone call.
Yeah.
And then from there, my thought process was, every time we do something different, let's make it just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So he gets used to being around the team. He understands the equipment that we're asking him to wear,
right?
Whether that's a transmitter, a recorder, or whatever else it might be.
Yeah.
And so that is the path that I took with him, is to take it slow. So to answer your question, where I started was, number one was a recorded phone call, a controlled phone call as he spoke. Then we moved on to simple buy walks that many people in the narc world, in the gang world do.
Right.
Where they're going into an apartment, a garage, a house. They're buying whatever amount of dope out of that place, and they're bringing it back to us. We're writing a search warrant.
Yeah.
We're getting what we need.
Right.
So we took it very slowly. So in the beginning, it was a slow process to do that.
Yeah.
And then I started to introduce them to the equipment that we use. Again, recorders, what we call wires, although they don't have wires anymore, but wires and transmitters. So he's becoming more used to wearing equipment that bolsters our case.
Yeah.
So that's how we started.
Okay. And then at some point, y'all ended up doing operations where you're not just sending him into somewhere, you're going with him, like as his homeboy, right? Like, how did that progress?
To put it in a nutshell, yes, you are correct. Came a point At this point in my career, probably 2016, I was a full-time undercover operator for our UC team.
Yeah.
So I'm being farmed out for 4 or 5, 6 months to work with whatever either Fed team, local team that needs somebody that fits the criteria that I have for their case.
Right.
So because of that, I've already come with a lot of undercover experience on the street.
Yeah.
And what occurred in 2016, I was given a case where I was going to be the primary undercover for probably like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And all the things that Simon had been doing for us for the last year, it kind of clicked in my head. I had like the aha moment, the light bulb went off, and I thought to myself, what if I brought him with me on this undercover assignment that's been given to me?
Yeah.
He can be my cousin, my friend, the homie from the county, whatever backstory we come up with.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I brought that idea up to my sergeant, and my sergeant thought I was a little bit crazy, but he was intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And he brought it up the chain of command, and surprisingly, the chain of command approved it.
Wow.
And he brought me into the office and he said, I don't know how, but the command has approved you and Simon to work together on this undercover operation as a team for the next 4 months, and we'll see how it goes.
Wow.
So I got a hold of Simon, and I told him, hey, we have a new assignment. And he probably thought it was another dirty dope deal at 1 a.m. in an alley with a bunch of tweakers.
Yeah.
I said, no, this is different. We're going to be at a bar. We're going to get introduced to a group of arms dealers by another source. And our job for the next 3 months is to chop it up with these dudes and see if we can purchase weapons from them. That was the very first assignment that we had. It's probably in 2015. So we're talking 10 years ago.
Wow.
And we did that for 4 months.
So, I'm thinking about the dynamic, behind having a UC officer and then adding a person who did this in real life, who wasn't playing a part, right? And I could only imagine that would bring some credibility to you when you walk up, when you have a person like Simon with you. It's like you almost instantly get street cred, right? And another thing I'd like to point out for all the cops who are listening that are interested or who are aspiring to become undercover. Johnny here does not have a single visible tattoo on him, and his hair looks good, clean cut looking dude. So when you get that spot in the narc unit, you don't have to run out and grow a beard and cover yourself in tattoos to be an effective undercover, because you've done countless undercover deals with some of probably the most violent, experienced criminals in the country, and you look like a dude that you would have your kids go play with, right?
You have a great perception of that. And in the classes that I am blessed to teach in California and throughout the United States, I say the exact same thing that you do. If I can do it, I am more on the introverted side than I am on the extroverted side.
Yeah.
So if I can do it with my personality type and 0 tattoos, clean cut, closely shaven hair, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's important for me to have the listeners and you understand. Yes, I understood this working street operations, but when Simon and I were teamed up together, I learned a lot from him as well.
Yeah.
And one thing I will always remember that he had to say was this, and this is years that have gone by when it doesn't matter what you look like.
Yeah.
It's a matter of the aura that you present.
How you carry yourself.
Confidence that you present. Tattoos, do they help? Of course. But as Simon says, you can be a real one and have 0 tattoos.
Yeah.
So yes, I learned that.
Yeah. So I can imagine. I mean, at the point that you guys teamed up, you had already done a ton of undercover
On the streets. Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So how much better of a UC did you become after getting to spend time with the real deal?
I think we both benefited from each other, but
Yeah.
I will speak and I will let Simon speak on his part. I think we both fed off of each other.
Yeah.
I think we both learned from each other.
Yeah.
I had a lot to offer him.
Yeah.
And he had a lot to offer me.
Yeah.
So I think we both really sunk our teeth into what he had to offer me
Mhm.
and then what I had to offer him.
Yeah.
So what I learned from him, I already said it. It's not how you look. It's how you present yourself.
Right.
Confidence. And I did learn a lot from Simon regarding the culture.
Yeah.
I already had the lingo down.
Yeah.
Certain lingo. But I learned a lot from him. I was kind of like a sponge. And I thought I knew a lot, but I would watch how he would interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I can be like him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I would always say to anybody who's listening that's a UC or new in UC. You have to create your own persona. So
Right.
if you see somebody that I want to be him, if you try to recreate yourself as them, it'll come off fake.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to look at certain things that person is doing, such as Simon was doing, and maybe take little bits and pieces and meld that into your own persona.
Yeah. What do you think, Simon? How much?
Well, yeah, I've definitely learned a lot from Johnny. It's been a long road. Thinking back as far as like the cop side of things, I mean, what can I teach Johnny? I had nothing to teach him. That's his background. That's his life.
Yeah.
That's his career, if you will. So he was already in the mix, hunting down dudes like me, if you will.
Right.
So I had nothing really to offer in that sense of anything on the streets other than, I guess, the way the gang member thinks.
Yeah.
And not that he doesn't know the way a gang member thinks. He's been out there so many years on the field like that. In a weird way, cops sometimes they become gangsters in their own way.
Yeah.
Not by breaking the laws, of course, just, their character, being after it, being go-getters.
Yeah.
Having that drive, that determination. Where these fuckers at?
Yeah.
Where are they? Yeah, bro, the two worlds, they mesh, they blend in very well. And, I've learned a lot, I guess more, the criminal shit. I had that from my background when it came to, when it came to the undercover world of being at a table with a bunch of armed dealers. I've sat at tables like that.
Right.
Not that the tables are any more or anything less, but it's the purpose, the goal, the plan of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
And that's just one business endeavor to another. Bunch of convict, thug motherfuckers trying to make $1.
Yeah.
Trying to profit off of it, and at the same time conduct yourself and do good business. Because nobody wants to be out there having to hunt anybody down for being grimy or doing things that regarding the street, you call street code, things. There's certain things that you do, certain things you just don't do.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that world, you gotta always conduct yourself in a good fashion, bro. Do good business.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, bro, I've learned more of anything. I've learned more of how to be a man, a different meaning of a man. Responsibility wise is what I have learned.
Yeah.
From Johnny.
So, what's the difference in your mind between you sitting at a table in a house or wherever with a bunch of arms dealers or drug dealers or whatever in your previous life on your own to doing the exact same scenario, but knowing that there's a van parked up the block with a bunch of dudes with guns and straps on, that if some shit goes down, they're about to kick the door in and come and take care of business. Like, did you ever think about that? Like I'm sitting here and I know that they're listening, right? And compared that to the times you've done the same thing before when you were on your own. Like, did you ever think about that? Like at that time?
Like there could be law enforcement.
No. Like you said earlier that you've been at those same tables
Right.
in your previous life.
Right.
Did you ever think about the fact, or did it ever make you feel better or more comfortable in your situation, knowing that if shit hits the fan, they're going to come help us?
Yeah, but then again, that takes time.
Yeah,
that takes time. And me coming from that environment, from that world of a gang member, things are fast and things happen very quickly.
Right.
And when them guns get to busting, bro, people are already down before any team's in there to save anybody.
Right.
And that's more like movie shit.
Right.
People that can really relate to the streets and know exactly what I'm talking about.
So I guess to relate this to the undercover cops that are listening is it's on you to save your own ass while you're in there.
I'll speak to that. And you bring up a great point. And I say this again in the UC classes that I do teach. You have to be capable of saving yourself. And when I say this is that I get it. On the streets, there's always a rescue team, but they are usually in another parking lot, maybe across the street, a half a block up. And as Simon said, by the time they get in there, the gunpowder is already settling on the ground. And they are more of a triage team.
Right.
And I don't say that in a derogatory term as a rescue team. I know my rescue team would go through a brick wall for me.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is this. By the time they get there, they unload and they get into wherever we're at, it's over with. Just like Simon said.
Yeah.
I've been on rescue teams myself.
Yeah.
And I understand how hard it is to listen to a transmitter for 6 hours, 5 hours, where it's cutting in and out, and you're not really sure what's being said with all the background noise, the music, whatever else is going on in the background.
Yeah.
So, to put it to you bluntly, if you are a UC operator, you have to be capable of taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, we talked about this a little bit earlier in my own experience where I've been in a situation where I had a cooperator that was introing me into a house, and he didn't know the people the way he said he knew the people, right? And we probably didn't do a good enough job making sure that he could actually do what he said he could do. And so we went from getting this guy on paper to, which this was dumb, looking back on it, going from taking him straight off the street to putting my life in his hands, having him introduce me into a house with a dude that I didn't know was going to be in there that's fresh out of prison, a high up officer in a very large prison gang, and having the dude that is supposed to be introing me didn't even know the people in the house, and he offended the people. And next thing we know, they're in an argument, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna have to shoot our way out of here. And it all worked out. In the end, I got the guy who was supposed to be introing me out of the house, and the guy that he was beefing with ended up dealing with me directly because he was cool with me, but he didn't like that guy. And the whole point of that story is two things. One, the comms were down the whole time. Nobody could hear that we were having a problem. But two, I want to bring this back around to what you talked about earlier, is you guys started small with a phone call. You started with buys. You were able to see what he was capable of, and that he was legit, and that he was able to do what he said he could do, as opposed to what we did. And a lot of cops, I think, do this. They get the lust for the bust, if you will, right? They see this guy and he's like, I can do X, Y, and Z. I can bring you Chapo's head on a plate tomorrow, right? And you're like, well, let's go do it. And next thing you know, you're in the middle of a gangbanger's house, and you're like, well, shit, how did we get here, right? So he doesn't have any skin in the game other than the fact that, well, maybe they'll figure out that I'm, working with the cops. But on the officer side, I want y'all guys to think about, the people out there who are listening to this, to think about, is this person that you're going to take in there somebody that you want to trust your life with? Do you want your wife and kids to come to your funeral because this dude had a bad day, got you killed? So take it slow. You really need to vet your sources.
You bring up a really good point on many points that we probably don't have to cover here. But one thing that resonated with me when you said, do you trust this person with your life? Because you really have to, whether you're working a UC op with a partner,
mm-hmm.
or in this unique aspect with a former gang member,
mm-hmm.
you have to ask yourself the question, do you trust this person with your life?
Yeah.
And so I'll come back full circle to what you were saying there. When I very first brought up the idea to my supervisor that I would like to take Simon on board with me on this street operation for the next 4 months,
mm-hmm.
and he got it approved by our command, and I high-fived my sergeant, and I was
mm-hmm.
about to walk out of his office, and he goes, wait, turn around. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want to hear it from your mouth. I don't want a nod of your head. Do you trust Simon with your life?
Right.
Because I want to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Verbally.
Yeah, for sure.
And I said, of course I do. I wouldn't be here in your office asking to do this. I trust him with my life.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's all I want to hear. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Those are good points. I think, like I said, people are, when things get in a hurry and things get rushed, that's when mistakes are made and bad things happen. So, before we get off this episode, I want to, can you or y'all, can you guys share one story of something cool or something crazy that y'all did together, that y'all experienced, that y'all were like, damn, we're really in the middle of it now? Just something that comes up.
I will give you from my perspective,
mm-hmm.
and then I'll turn it over to Simon for his perspective, because we were both in the same car.
Let's see.
We were working a 9-month undercover operation. It was dope/gang related,
mm-hmm.
in kind of a northern section of the county that we're dealing with. And we were probably on month 4 or 5 at this point. We were making a lot of great deals. And our plan was to start from the bottom, as we call them, crawdads at the bottom that are dealing baggies,
mm-hmm.
and then moving up to ounces, quarter pounds, half pounds, pounds, kilos, so on and so forth. So we finally were able to connect with the big dog, I guess, if you will, that's supplying the entire corridor of the area that we're working right now.
Yeah.
And we did our first deal with, believe it or not, a female.
Yeah.
It was a female that comes from gang ties from the inner city of our community.
Yeah.
And the very first deal that we did, I believe was in the back of the Jack in the Box, was Simon and I. He, at this point, was doing so great, we moved him over to operator number 1. He was the primary.
Yeah.
I was just his driver at this point.
Right.
He's in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
It's about 10:30 in the evening. So I'm going to set the stage, and I'm going to turn it over to Simon. I'm the driver. I'm armed. Obviously, mm-hmm. he's not.
Yeah.
In comes up a black Escalade.
Mm-hmm.
Blacked out. This is the very first deal. Lemo black tint. Side by side with our car. The passenger window goes down, and that is our female, what we call the queen bee, who's providing everything.
Yeah.
And she is talking to Simon at this point. I'm just a driver. Simon's already had telephone communication with her.
Yeah.
So she feels, just based on that telephone communication, comfortable meeting with him.
Yeah.
The window rolls down on her vehicle. He rolls his window down. They're both sitting in the car. and the talk starts to happen on the very first buy. I'll turn it over to Simon. I know you remember this incident with the blacked out Escalade.
Yeah.
And when the window goes down, how did it all unfold?
Yeah, it was nothing more than a group of drug dealers, if you will, trying to find peace in the situation. Obviously, when you're living that fast-paced life, bro, the last thing you're trying to do is meet with a cop and sell dope to a fucking an undercover,
Right.
You know, so if you're pulling up and you're gang related, and you know, the people that are buying, that are there to purchase, kind of look gang related. Well, just based on that, you kind of want to know who you're doing business with,
Right.
you know? But in this situation, it was different because I wasn't doing business with her people.
Yeah.
She had people that came with her, and I didn't know them from Adam.
Right.
You know, I could tell they were dudes because I could hear voices. So we're kind of like small talking. Hey, honey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? You know,
Yeah.
here we are. And yeah, you know, how's it going? And so you got that. And we're having that small talk, and all at the same time, real quickly, bro, the back door opens. I hear the back door crack. And the first thing that comes to my mind was somebody's getting off the car. Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
But my instinct is to meet fire with fire rather than to be a sitting duck and let whoever's in the back seat, if they're even coming my way,
Right.
you know, to put ourselves in a predicament.
Yeah.
Where Johnny and I are, you know, we end up getting shot up in the ride. So I met fire with fire, bro. The fucking door clicked. He came out. I came out. Bam. And just like that, bro, within seconds of me talking to the female, 2 seconds later, I'm on the side of the car looking at another gang member with his arm in a pocket of like a hoodie jacket, beanie, hoodie, one hand in the pocket, like kind of like letting you know I'm packing.
Yeah.
You know, not too much of a threat where they're like pulling it at you, but just like on a side stance, letting you know, like I'm hoping you and I'm armed. And he made that a point to let me know that,
Right.
You know, but I'm guessing now it was nothing. I didn't take it as disrespect because again, the dude don't know me from Adam.
Right.
He just wants to make sure he's not dealing with police.
Right.
So I don't know how he assumes police minds work.
Yeah.
But I think he figured if we were the police and he approached our door, we would probably reverse and speed out of there, you know?
Yeah.
Right. I can only imagine his thoughts because nothing else would make sense. But I went with the flow, bro, you know, and he introduced himself like a gang member. And I guess when he gained that confidence from me, after I said, you know, my gang name and my gang ties, whatever, he looks over to the driver and he's like, yeah, he's straight. He's straight. It's the homie. And he just got back in the car and like just letting me know what it is, you know. It all speaks. It's hardly any words, but just it all speaks. It communicates, you know.
Right.
And it's nothing that I can be mad over.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you expect? You're doing business with a girl.
Right.
Of course, she's gonna probably bring a brother, a cousin, a man. You know, so I couldn't get mad about it.
Yeah.
The dude wants to know who the girl's doing business with. It might be his aunt, his girl cousin. He wants to make sure he's safe when she's doing business with me. That's probably why he felt the need to get off and say his gang name. It could be many reasons, but you got to flow. Everything's got to align right, so there's no suspicion being felt, bro. But very dangerous situations, man. Yeah.
How do you think that would have gone if you weren't in the car and it was just Johnny by himself?
Shit. Well, I think I would have been further away from even being able to hear that click of the door, because that was the back door that opened.
No, I'm saying if you weren't even in the car, let's say it was just him.
Okay.
The same situation happens. He pulls up to talk to this person, and the dude jumps out to check him. Do you think that there was like, would it be something that if it was just a cop by himself, do you think he could have overcame that the situation as far as the guy just trying to check him out? Or do you think, depending on their experience level, like you said, they're expecting the cops to take off. Like, so, you know, what advice would you give to an officer who is doing a deal like that and he finds himself in the same situation?
Man, I guess I would say to be as normal. Let it play out. Let it be normal.
Yeah.
You know, let it play out normal.
So how do you think the same situation would have played out if you were not in the car and it was just Johnny by himself?
I feel it wouldn't have been no different. Working with Johnny, he's got the very same type of confidence, if not probably more than me.
Yeah.
He's been out there 30 plus years, bro. Law enforcement.
Yeah.
He would have
handled his business.
Yeah, hell yeah, bro. He would have handled it like a G.
Yeah.
Stay
That's awesome.
calm and collective, and it's all good in the hood.
That's it, man. Well, hey guys, we've been on here for a minute now. We got to jump off, but I appreciate you guys coming on and giving us a little, insight into the street life. And one more thing I want to ask just before we get off. So we asked the question earlier, what kind of internal conflict did you have when you first started doing this? By the end of your time doing this, did you still have that same kind of conflict, or was it kind of resolved itself? Like it was different now?
It resolved itself, bro. From the neighborhood was ripped out. But you know what? It goes back. It was like the perfect storm. Everybody had to be at the right place at the right time. Even my partner Johnny, wanting to retire and go out with a bang like that.
Yeah.
Him getting it okayed by the DAs and all that to work with a dude like me, to even allow me to even work off my case.
Yeah.
Usually second strikers, dudes of my background.
Yeah.
Bro, they're just waiting for a little bullshit case and back to Planet Prison I go,
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case this time.
Yeah. Were you able to see the positive effect that your work did on the community? And did that kind of give you like a sense of accomplishment a little bit?
Right. Yeah, it was when I refer to the team, that's Johnny and the fellas, both male and female, the team. And just being around a great group of people like that, being around a regular civilian type of mentality, it's a lot different from the convict mentality, bro. From the gang life, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
Just having a regular friendship, just chopping it up and about how their day went is way different from talking about with a gang member of how their day went.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine.
So I've learned to cherish like those type of friendships, bro. And I was able to but again, it came from before, when I had paroled, from Corcoran. I paroled from Corcoran in 2014. I was going through those changes like the last 2 years in my prison cell. I wasn't proud of the gang member, the man that I had became. Not so much the gang member, because there was really nothing left. I had really poured myself out in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I guess the next thing to do would to be a made man, but that comes with those people coming and getting at you. It's not something you can apply for.
Yeah.
And you can and it varies, bro. You can be the craziest convict and you still won't make the team.
Yeah.
They're very selective. It's a very selective group. And I seen that I was wasting my time, bro. I had wasted my fucking life from the age of 11, 12 years old. By that time, I'm 30 years old, looking at myself all full of tattoos, but in the mirror, looking at a young boy who once played with his Legos and his Pogs and his Sega Genesis and, and was just a regular normal kid, bro. And looking at myself as in my young 30s, locked up in the Corcoran shoe. I didn't feel achieved of any type of great achievements in my life. If anything, I felt like shit, bro, being old like that. I have nothing to come home to.
Right.
I got kids that I'm going to probably have to, learn, not so much learn to be a dad, because that's instinct, but I left them when they were like 2-3 years old. I went off to go do 10 years. So I got to patch those things up. I got to get home and make things right.
Yeah.
My mother aged on me during that stretch.
Yeah.
My little sister caught a life sentence in Washington in Gig Harbor.
Wow.
She's also had her ways with the gang, her lifestyle, she lived the same type of life.
Yeah.
But it took time, man. I was going through those changes in prison, and when I came home, I knew that I wasn't going to come back and get into tap into the old me,
Yeah.
And so just that alone, getting hit with the case, having to rethink my life over, like, shit, do I got another prison round in me? I just finished doing 10.
Yeah.
I'm fucking in my 30s. Fuck, can I go do another 20?
Yeah.
I'm like, I probably can,
Yeah.
And then considering the circumstances of my case, I didn't want to be tied to no type of murders with no females or shit like that, bro. I've always been a solid gang member. So anytime when any type of female dies in the hood and I can help solve that case, I'm gonna help, bro.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of me coming over to this side,
Yeah. So I guess you get like
I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, man, and I've grown. I'm not the same Simon that you see here today. I'm a whole different dude, man. And I like just being a regular Joe.
Yeah.
I like not having to act fucking hard or having to act like a crazy guy.
Yeah.
Or having to put on that image, because it is an image,
Yeah.
and it really is. But there comes a time when you're on that gang path and 2 years become 3, 4, 5 years, you're getting locked up. It's no longer an image no more. Now you're really like, that chest is really out now.
Yeah.
You really become one with that life. And, for me, it took me being in my 30s, bro, looking at myself and just being tired of sticking my chest out like that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I crave normalcy.
Yeah.
I was tired of those facilities and having conversations with bald-headed gang members from all places of California. I didn't give a shit about hearing gangster stories, bro.
Yeah.
I wanted to play chess and chop it up with Roger and fucking Tommy and just on some regular shit at a bar with 2 fucking regular cool dudes.
Yeah.
Experience life in a different manner, bro. And
hell yeah.
I'm beginning to do that now,
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I appreciate y'all's time, and guys, until next time, we'll see y'all down the road on Texas Narcos. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, share our podcast with your friends and family. You can find Texas Narcos Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Your continued support helps us to bring you stories like the one you just heard. Thank you. God bless, and we'll see you down the road on Texas Narcos.